right in the front row, we're going to have Luke on the inside, Matt on the outside, and then row number 2, going to have Opix and then Blake. Row number 3, DJ and then Detail. Row number 4, Roman and Armada. And then running at the field, we're going to have Coop with the scheme action this time around. Thank you, Coop. Thank you. And we're going green at Lime Rock here for week number 3. Moto 1 for our HRL Forza Winter Short Track Showdown Series. And let's see how this goes the first couple turns. The beginning of the Lime Rock track is very technical and very easy to go off into the grass. Although you could say the thing about the grass for basically the whole track. In general, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges of this track for everybody this week is the grass. Very, very, very easy to go off. Very tight track. It's probably the tightest track that we've raced so far, and like I said before, technical. I think it's probably the most technical as well. So I think this is a pretty big challenge for everybody. Trying to get through lap 1 pretty clean here, and looks good so far. 18 lap race as well. 18 laps was going to be 17, but wanted to have the even lap count for easy math. Essentially, that was honestly the reason for easy math for pit strats and stuff like that. Didn't want anything to get too weird there, so tried to set that up. There we go. Down with the first lap, and there we go. Blake going off into the grass right there. You can see him. He's going to lose a lot of time, a lot of track position. And I mentioned it, and I'm sure it's going to come up more than that. The grass is the biggest enemy for everybody this week. Again, I think the most, maybe not just so far, but maybe out of our whole schedule, the most technical track and probably the most tight track as well. So like those combos, and then the fact that, whoa, we're going to take a look at a replay on that. Hold that thought. Look at this move from DJ. Look at that. Really, really close to Roman right there. I think he avoided contact. Oh, until there. That's a big cheesing. Roman off into the grass. Let's take a look at a replay on that one. So you saw the crazy move from DJ up the hill. That happened because when you get to the top of that hill, you actually like lose traction a little bit, and that's why it looks so cool. But here, yeah, taking a look at a replay on that helicopter cam. Obviously, after this incident, wanted to take a look at multiple different angles of it, and honestly, I think Roman probably should have given a little more real estate for himself, because looking at that angle and then looking at this too, I feel like DJ got over really far on the curb, and again, he's like almost like 4 tires. He's almost like cutting the track. He's so far over on the curb, not quite, but almost. So I think he gave, by virtue of doing that, gave Roman as much room as possible. And I think Roman just kind of took like his normal line. Like I think he just turned in normally, like there wasn't anybody there. That's kind of what it looked like to me. Like right here, you see Roman's on the outside. He's got someone on his inside, and you can really see on that angle. Like I think it's one of those things you're gonna have to learn with like the Forza stuff. But with DJ being on the inside and already being almost completely clear right there, Roman either would have had to give a lot of room for that to work, or just let off just a little bit. This is tough for Armada too. Big crash for Armada right behind. You hate to see that. But yeah, like go more towards the middle and give a little bit more room. Or if he let off and maybe got on the brake just a little bit more, he wouldn't have lost that much momentum, and he could have tucked in right behind him. And is that okay? So it was Armada before. That's Coop. So Coop off into the grass. Wow, lots of incidents early. Like I said, I think this is the toughest track. I think it's the toughest, most technical track on our schedule. So here we go for week 3. I think this is the biggest challenge for everybody, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that early on. A lot of drivers really struggling here at Lime Rock. It's a very difficult track. Like it's kind of unassuming. Like it's a very small track, very simple looking layout, and it doesn't look it just doesn't look that intimidating. But then you race it and you get into the flow of it, and it's like, wow. One wrong move on this track can ruin like a whole lap. Like it's like some road courses with bigger ones with more turns. I mean, yeah, there's certain turns that are more important. Don't get me wrong. You can really mess up some sections. But I feel like a lot of them, you can afford like a bad corner and still have a pretty solid lap overall. But this track, I feel like you mess up with the way these sections flow. you mess up one turn and it can really throw you off for an entire section is just screwed up. Like this first one's a very good example. If you don't get over far enough to the left, right here in this bend to set up for this right-hander exit here, that can really get you out of shape. And you actually, great example of it. There you go. Thank you, Detail and Roman, for great example of that. Like that turn is very, very easy to mess up. And if you get set up properly for it, you can avoid that pretty well. But yeah, that turn's very technical. It's easy to look for too much on the exit right there and get off again into the grass. Just constant issue that these guys are going to have to try to work around here on Lime Rock. But yeah, going back to it, I think it could have been avoided, but I don't think there's anything like Deech had the momentum and again like got over pretty far on the curb. Like I don't think he could have done too much more. For Roman, I think just a little bit more space, like a little bit more committed to the middle, because there was a driver on his inside. Because again, like the angle, especially if you go back to the helicopter view, the angle that Roman was turning in, like he was going to hit DJ on the inside no matter what, because he was, angled to hit the curb, but there's a car there, so there's not really much you could do. But yeah, either more towards the middle, or if he like just let off a quick break, probably wouldn't have lost that much time, would have tucked right in behind, maybe could have even continued fighting for the position. But yeah, hate to see how badly he went into the grass, but I definitely do think that could have been avoided, and I think that the more experience that we get in this series, we'll all get used to it a little bit more, and hopefully things like that probably be cleaned up a bit for the future. Although to be fair, there hasn't been that many instances of any like bad crashes like that so far, which has been nice to see. And like I said, this is the toughest track, so like seeing more instances like that on this track in particular will not surprise me too much. By the way, Roman's on a rogue pit strategy here. He I don't know what inspired him to try this, but he is going for double softs. So most drivers, if they double up on mediums, go for mediums twice. Roman is doubling up on softs. He's going to be running softs the entire race on qualifying laps, essentially. And then he's going to have 3 or 4 laps in each of his stints where his tires are just going to be absolutely shredded, and he's just going to deal with the downside of that. How is that going to work? I guess we will see. We'll watch it play out. I don't think that it will play out very well. But he's going for it, and I gotta respect again, like someone trying something different. I think that might be a little too rogue, but we'll see how it pans out. Like we've had in previous weeks, people do like the medium soft or soft medium, and we found that actually despite the downsides of it, that strategy can work seemingly pretty well. Oh, what happened here? We were doing an update on the field right there, and Blake goes off track hard, and that was weird. Like the way he went off track, it almost looked like a lockup, or I'm assuming he's racing on controller for this. It almost looked like his thumb slipped off. I'm not really sure what happened there. Like his first grassing just looked like, not enough time, not enough practice. It looked like he just wasn't used to the track to me. But that one looked really weird. Again, it looked like his thumb slipped off almost, is like kind of what it looked like to me. So I wonder if that's what happened or something similar to that. But yeah, that was just an odd one, very odd one. I didn't, we've had a lot of people go off into the grass right there, but that was like really off. So I don't know if something went on there to kind of influence that a little bit. But either way, tough, first moto for Blake in our Forza series, but I expect him to get it figured out. I think he'll be pretty solid and, in contention for top spots once he gets some more time under his belt. In this type of racing, I think he could definitely be pretty solid. So getting that, getting all those mistakes and getting used to it, getting all that out early, and, when we get to the next moto and maybe next race that he's in, I think that'll be sorted out a bit. And here we have the pits are coming in, so Armada pit, Luke pit as well. And here we have Luke going for, I think he ran a different strategy this race, actually went for softs hards, I think. And that's why he's behind Roman right here and going to pass Roman. You could tell right there how much Roman was struggling with Luke behind him on fresh softs versus Roman on those super old softs. And yeah, Roman definitely dives into the pits there, fair enough. But that was a great visual right there. Go back and watch that if you want to, see how bad the tire wear can really get. because or my bad, Luke was not on fresh softs, but on fresh hards. My bad. So fresh hards, and Roman was on those worn down softs, and the hards tend to be like quite a bit slower than the softs. And you can just tell like how much Luke had to check up to, you know, not slam Roman multiple times there, and how much Roman had to check up to make the turns. So yeah, that's why his strategy of going for double softs is very rogue, and why I don't expect it to work out. The downside of how many laps he has to run with just awful tire wear, I just think is too great. Oh, no, Armada losing it in the same it's like, it looked like the same exact crash basically. And thankfully we made the change to have the ghosting for lappers, because that could have been really catastrophic for multiple drivers right there, with where Armada crashed. I'm sure he's thankful for it too, that, you know, that didn't lead to cheesing anybody else's day. But yeah, thankfully we made that choice for this series. You know, maybe we'll switch it back once we get a little more time and experience under our belt for another series. But for this series, we had it on for the first race, and then after that it was like, doesn't really fit for this series. We're still too new. Ooh, hold on to it. Okay, just a little rally action for Detail. Luckily, he was able to catch that one early. We saw, you know, Coop and Blake felt like they went way more out in the grass. Oh my God, was that Armada there in the grass again? Yeah. How much grass action? Some of these drivers are just running a rallycross race. But again, that's what I was saying. Like that's how this track is. We're gonna see a lot of that for sure. Oh, and a shout out to Matt for everybody give Matt a shout out in the comments for saving the film. As you can see, we have his first person the way it works in the replay system. I can only go first person with the person who saved the film. So because these are Matt's films, I can go on board and first person with Matt. So we'll get a few shots of his on board in this moto and in the next moto as well. But yeah, so that's how that works. That's why I'm able to go on board with him, or like completely on board. You know, everybody else you can have the follow cam, but again, like Matt's the only one where I can do the first person POV. But give him a shout out in the comments, because if he didn't clutch up on the saving of the films, we would be watching another live, like the Eagle Rock stuff, and not the actual replay action. And there's some good replay action here at Lime Rock, so yeah, really nice to be watching it and actually having it for this race. But yeah, so a lot of the pits are coming through. Some of the hards runners, some of the early hards runners still have to pit, and here you go. I think one of them being DJ, he still has to pit. I think Detail is on that strategy as well. He still has to pit. Looks like Blake is on that strategy as well. He still has to pit. So we're still going to see a few drivers pitting here late in the race, but most drivers, whether they're going for mediums, you know, hards or softs at the end, most drivers have made their pit stops at this point. You know, so a lot of the field is starting to settle, and it's looking like Luke has a really strong gap for the lead, and it looks like Matt has a really strong gap for second. I think Opix kept it pretty close earlier, but I think Matt has done a pretty good job of stretching that gap and you know, getting some decent space between him and Opix. Now just needs to, you know, run clean rest of the race, and Matt could be on for a very good finish here. And here he's behind Detail, and Detail's on hards and also stretching it a bit as well, I think. And here we get some nice onboard action. Yeah, loving this view. And we're probably going to see Detail pit in front of Matt here. Let's see how this works out, because Matt... Oh, Detail gets a little loose right there. Is Matt going to try to sneak by on the inside before Detail goes in for his pit? Looks like maybe not. Maybe not. He's a little nice to him there on the exit because he had a big run. Oh, he's not going for the pit, though. He's not going for the pit. Okay, he's really stretching it. Wow, I thought he'd surely be going in for the pit that lap, but no. Staying out another lap. There's the Opix going through or by Armada. Yeah, the ghosting effect with when you go a lap down. I feel bad for Armada in this one. This is a tough track for him. Tough track for everybody. But yeah, some of those instances earlier with those like big crashes, you know, we saw drivers make mistakes on like Daytona and Maple Valley, and you know, it wasn't too bad. Maple Valley, the one place where it could be bad, there's a sand trap, which, you know, yeah, you lose a lot of time, but it saves you from like destroying yourself in the wall. And then Daytona obviously has a lot of runoff, so we saw drivers like make mistakes on those tracks, but not have like too bad of consequences. But unfortunately for Armada, there's the tire barriers, the walls, the grass on this track is just absolutely brutal. So when he made the mistakes that he did, the consequences were just much worse. Lime Rock is very, very unforgiving. So here we go. We're getting pretty close to the end. I would have to imagine Detail has stayed out long enough. There we go. I was going to say, has to be pitting. I'm pretty sure he's the last one to pit. I think Blake got in at some point there, unless Blake's pitting on this lap as well. Oh, no, Blake is went pretty late as well. He actually put on the same lap as Detail. There you go. Okay, so they're done. That's everybody. Everybody's made their pits. So they're going to cycle out. All the pit strategy stuff has been decided, and we're just going to run it to the end of the race. And it looks like the biggest... Oh, hold on to it. Looks like the biggest top spot fight that we can still have is DJ on a late run, trying to get into the podium. And we saw him make some moves earlier. We saw him, you know, get up the pack and have some decent speed. And now he's all the way up to Opix. Opix looks super loose right now. And DJ maybe has an opportunity to get on the podium here. See if he's able to do it. And, well, here we go. Yeah, Opix still, it just, I don't know, it just looks a little loose in most of these turns right now. Not sure what's up with that. But yeah, he looks very, very free. Yeah, you can see it there. Look at that. Look at that. DJ's just gonna sprint on by him right there. Although I do think Deech is on the softs with his strategy. I think Opix is on mediums, so Deech does have a little bit more grip. So that's definitely the case. But still, like you saw it, I don't know, it almost looks like his setup is different, which is funny because we're all in the same setup. But yeah, Opix is just getting super loose in the mid corner. But yeah, I mean, maybe just showing the difference of the grip in the tires, like DJ on those softs, just able to straighten it out a lot quicker, get the gas down a lot quicker, whereas Opix is having to struggle to find that grip a little bit more, and ends up losing the spot. Still in a solid 4th place position though. And but yeah, so it's going to be Luke, Matt, DJ, top 3, and then Opix, and then it looks like Roman is currently holding on to 5th. Although that is another spot that we're going to have to keep an eye on. I think the top 4 is probably pretty settled at this point, unless DJ like really stretched his softs and they're going to fall off at the end, and then Opix will maybe gain back a little bit. Maybe that could be a thing, but I don't know. I think the top 4 with the gaps and the way the strategies are playing out, I think it's looking pretty good for the top 4 to kind of stay where they're at, unless something crazy happens. Where we will see movement potentially later is, I think, Roman, Detail, Blake. I think Coop and Armada are a little too far back. But yeah, and the reason why is because of the strategy we talked about. Roman is running double softs. So yes, he's ahead of Detail and Blake right now, and yes, he has a big gap. But his tires are going to fall off tremendously. That's probably already started. His tires are going to fall off tremendously. Detail and Blake hit super late for softs. They're on fresh softs. They'll be fine all the way to the end. They're not going to have any problems with tire wear. They hit super late. They'll be totally fine. So Detail and Blake are going to be on the best tire, most grip, no problems to worry about with tire wear. Roman, these last 3 laps especially, is going to be struggling. He's on the same tire technically, but in terms of the life of that tire, he is not on the same tire. So he is going to be absolutely struggling. He's going to have his hands full with that Mazda, and we're going to see if he's going to be able to hold on to that top 5 with this rogue strategy that he's done for this race. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, I think not. I think double softs is super rogue. I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to it, but he's done a surprisingly like decent job. Like, I expected this to go worse for him already, so maybe he still has a chance. And a lot of people have been like grassing it, and you know, Roman's lines haven't looked perfect, but aside from the one incident with DJ, I feel like he's looked pretty decent other than that, so maybe he'll be able to hold on to it. We'll keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him and see if he can pull it off. Go on board with Luke here. You know, having a really strong race, and probably going, or I believe, yes, going to be going under the white flag right here. So this is the last time around for Luke. Try to extend that win streak here on Lime Rock. Although the qualifying was pretty tight. It wasn't as tight as Maple Valley, but it was pretty tight. Matt put down some really good laps in Rivals and was able to put down a pretty solid time in qualifying here. So not too surprising that Matt's running a strong second right now. Which reminds me, I forgot to mention, should have had Slaunch in this race. So should have had Slaunch in this race, but he was really struggling with his game crashing, and he was trying to get that figured out. So unfortunately, we gave him a lot of opportunities. He wasn't able to get it to stay in game for long enough, so we had to run Moto 1 without him. But luckily, he will be back for Moto 2, and hopefully it will work the whole way. And look at this, entering the last lap, look at that, Roman, you could tell, just struggling. Detail gets by, and Blake's not by yet, but I think he'll be close. And here we go, we're going to be taking the checkered flag. That's the win. Go on board with Matt. Matt's going to be coming home second. But yeah, you could see there, you could tell Roman grassing, like he's just got his hands full. It's just super tough. And you see it on the ticker. Blake just took the 6th place position, so Detail and Blake moving up 2 spots, or moving up a spot each rather. And Roman moving back 2 spots. DJ rounds out the podium. Alex going to be taking 4th. And you see the gaps like pretty, you know, fairly equal between all of them. And then you go back to Detail in 5th, and then this is where the gaps were like pretty sizable. Everybody behind the top 4 was really struggling on this track. But Detail going to be able to salvage a top 5 out of it here. And then we're going to go to Blake, going to be taking 6th. Roman 7th. And then we're going to go over to Coop and, yeah, see if Coop and Armada are close at all, and it doesn't look like that's the case. Coop was able, he did go off track a couple times, we definitely saw it, but it seems like he improved a bit from last week, and yeah, didn't have the pace, not quite there yet, but he did seem to keep it on track quite a bit better, and it seemed like less of a handful for him than it did in the last week, so definitely a good improvement out of Coop. He'll get there for sure, and he's going to take 8th here. And then we're going to go on board. Yeah, tough race for Armada. The 2 really big crashes. Probably the biggest impacts that we've seen anybody take in this series so far, so that was obviously not ideal. But still the sickest scheme, in my opinion. I really like his car. So nice to see it out here. And we'll have the oval action next week. We'll see what he can do there. I'd like to, you know, hopefully see him be competitive, be in some battles there. But he's going to round out the field in 9th here. Lime Rock crosses the line. And there we go. So there you have it. We got the parade lap. Enjoy this, but there's the results. Hope you enjoyed it. Lime Rock Moto 1. And Moto 2 is going to be an absolute doozy. We're going to have Slaunch back in the field, and we're going to do an invert. So, yeah, Moto 2 going to be absolutely nuts. Don't miss it. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you there.